The Illusive Man's secret backstory proves why he had to be Shepard's final boss, because in so many ways, the beginning of his character arc mirrors the Commander's, turning them both into humanity's best chance at beating the Reapers. And the Illusive Man's arc begins not as the founder of Cerberus, but rather a simple mercenary known as Jack Harper. In the year Shepard turned 3 years old, Jack was on the front lines of humanity's first ever contact with an alien species. After beginning to colonize worlds and countless new systems, the human colonists on Shanxi were being uprooted and attacked by the bird-like Turians. And it was there that Jack saw firsthand the atrocities that aliens were capable of. Countless human civilians were mutilated and killed by the bloodthirsty Turians, along with most of the system's alliance soldiers. The only team who still had the will to fight was a ragtag trio of mercenaries hired by the Alliance, with Jack leading the way. His fellow team of Eva and Ben hated the Turians just as much as Jack did, and were determined to put an end to their slaughter by any means necessary. The Turians, on the other hand, couldn't care less about the humans. They were after something much more precious, a secret that would turn them into the most powerful species in the galaxy, and Jack Harper was the first ever human to stumble across this technological secret. 26 years later, Commander Shepard was on a mission that would determine the fate of humanity's future. They could become humanity's first ever Spectre, gaining them a foothold with the most powerful leaders in the galaxy. And everything was going wrong. After saving Ashley, a fellow Alliance soldier, she described how the Geth suddenly began attacking the human colonists on Eden Prime. The Prothean beacon she had been guarding was unprotected, and to make matters worse, a mysterious ship had appeared that looked anything but friendly. The mission for humanity's Spectre status was turning sideways very quickly. Finding the Prothean beacon that brought them there could secure their victory though, and eventually, Shepard found it. The Prothean artifact that would alter humanity's destiny. 26 years earlier, during the First Contact War, Jack and his friend Ben discover an artifact of unknown origins that glowed an eerie, almost inviting blue. Before they get a chance to examine it though, they were suddenly attacked by mysterious figures out for blood. Caught off guard, Jack and Ben unloaded their arsenal into their assailants, but for some reason, they just wouldn't die. These cloaked attackers were faster and stronger than any Turian they had faced. But after a fierce battle, the plucky humans emerged victorious. And after throwing the hood back to reveal who had attacked them, they saw something unexpected. Their attackers were Turian, except they were somehow enhanced. Jack noticed that the powerful Turians seemed to be more evolved, or maybe even fully evolved. But before Jack could examine them further, Ben wandered too close to the mysterious artifact, causing a massive energy blast. Bolts of energy crackled around Ben while racking him in pain. Jack quickly reacted, attempting to pull Ben away from the artifact, but in the process also became engulfed by the artifact's massive amount of power. As Jack's eyes turned a piercing blue, he fell to unconsciousness to the sound of his friend Eva calling his name. And while unconscious, he witnessed a terrifying vision. Your time is almost at an end. It is the way of things. It is inevitable. You can't fight it. You can't avoid it. You have but two choices. You can hide, or you can accept your fate. We are your destiny. And over 25 years later, history repeated itself. As one of Shepard's fellow soldiers wandered too close to the Prothean beacon, it suddenly pulled them towards it, too strong to break free from. Shepard didn't think twice, they just moved. The commander rushed to pull their ally away from the beacon, but in so doing, they became ensnared instead. As Shepard rose in the air, they began to see flashes of something terrifying and beyond comprehension. In one final blast from the beacon, Shepard was thrown into unconsciousness, with the vision's contents locked in their mind. And there was only one other human who had seen a similar vision, 25 years earlier. After waking from a weeks-long coma, Jack learned from Eva that their friend Ben had died from his interaction with the artifact, and that the war with the Turians was over. For Jack, though, the real war was only just beginning. After being sent back to base, Jack announced that he couldn't leave the artifact that killed Ben unchecked. He was convinced that the artifact was what made the superpowered Turians so strong, and the vision he had seen of darkness and destruction was also directly because of it. Jack couldn't just forget about it, because humanity's first war with an alien race was over. So with his last remaining team member by his side, Jack and Eva traveled to Ilium in pursuit of the Turian artifact, and hopefully some answers to Jack's visions. But along the way, Eva began noticing some disturbing changes in her friend. Jack's eyes were now a sharp blue that wasn't his natural color, and he was able to converse with Asari using the Asari language, something her friend had never done before. Even more curiously, he didn't find it strange that he had this new ability. Jack simply accepted it, like he could always do the impossible. After his interaction with the unknown technological artifact, Eva knew that Jack Harper was a changed man. He was more powerful, but changed in ways she knew wasn't him. And after pursuing the mysterious artifact that had changed him, the duo stumbled across the Turians once again. One of these Turians is very familiar to Shepard's story as well, but that's a tale for a different day. For Jack's story, the Turian in charge gifted Jack with one of the answers he had been searching for. The name of the artifact that had permanently altered him was called the Arca Monolith, and in the ensuing battle with the Turians over the monolith's location, Jack received another answer that shocked him to his core. His friend Ben was alive and forever altered by the Arca Monolith. After Shepard awoke on the Normandy, they were already en route to the Citadel, ready to inform the Council of the new threat facing them all. Shepard's captain, Anderson, was focused on taking down his rival, a Turian named Saren who's also a Spectre. But as Shepard slowly learned more about Saren, it became clear that he was just a tool being used by a much larger threat. That larger threat being the Reapers, a race of machines that were going to wipe out the Milky Way. And the only ones willing to believe Shepard's Reaper vision was Anderson and the Normandy's alien diverse crew. With them, the commander was going to defeat the Reapers, starting with their flagship, Sovereign. After Jack and Eva were reunited with their friend Ben, he revealed that the Arca Monolith had changed him. It had arose him, a resurrection from death itself. As the three members of Jack's crew took in this miracle, the Turians made their way to their homeworld of Palaven, where the monolith would permanently reside. And while a prisoner on Palaven, Jack learned a disturbing secret about the monolith's origins. But before he could share it with anyone, his friend Eva made a grave mistake. She had managed to free Jack from Palaven's prison, but decided to fire on the monolith shortly after. In her mind, its destruction might reverse the changes in her two friends, freeing them from its unknown powers. Driven mad by the monolith though, Ben violently attacked Eva, gravely wounding her in the process. Despairing at his actions, Ben lashed out at the Turian that had first lured them to the cursed artifact, killing the Turian and himself in his final act. In the aftermath, Jack carried his dying friend Eva out of Palaven, revealing the truth behind the Arca Monolith's origins. The artifact wasn't an evolution accelerator, it was a devolution device, a booby trap by its creators to alert them of advanced species in the galaxy, and to control them. As his comrade and friend Eva Corey passed away in his arms, Jack Harper knew what his new purpose was. There was something out there to protect humanity against. Some alien creators that wanted to snuff out all that humanity had thus far achieved. He would face it head on, not with magic, but with technology. Tools that humanity must master to face this new challenge, not just to survive, but for the betterment of mankind. With the end of his manifesto, Cerberus was officially founded, and Jack Harper was no more. He became the Illusive Man, the man who would use technology to conquer any enemy, including death itself. In 2183, Shepard had defeated the Reaper known as Sovereign, announcing humanity's true power to the galaxy. But also, this action inadvertently painted a target onto every human's back, with the biggest threat of them all being Shepard. In a sudden attack the commander never saw coming, the Reaper's minions killed Shepard before they got a chance to stop them. That is, until the Illusive Man stepped in to save Shepard from death's clutches. And before we get to the rest of the story, I have some exciting news about a different First Contact story written by fellow Mass Effect fan Xenowriter. In this debut sci-fi book, Peacekeeper, the protagonist Krista Evero defends colonists from danger and stumbles across aliens who view humans as a religious curse. I was lucky enough to snag an early copy and loved the Mass Effect vibes with the crew and the First Contact story that's similar to the Illusive Man's backstory with the Turians. Check out this action-packed and Mass Effect-inspired story today by using the link in the description. Alright, back to the Mass Effect universe. The Illusive Man knew Shepard was like him. The vision they had both shared of the Reaper's return prophesied the end of humanity, and they were the only ones who had seen the coming catastrophe firsthand. He refused to let his best shot at defeating the Reapers die, so he decided to undo death itself. Using the wealth Cerberus had accumulated, the Illusive Man found a way to resurrect Shepard, not through magic, but by using technology. Through all of Cerberus's questionable experiments, the pro-human group's leader had gained the ability to defy death. The Illusive Man was just as powerful as the Archimonolith that had granted him power so long ago. And now, the Reapers were going to face humanity's wrath, with Shepard as his tip of the spear. But unfortunately for the Illusive Man, the newly resurrected Shepard was already doubting Cerberus's intentions. During the Commander's mission on Horizon, they saw firsthand the horrors of the upcoming Reaper war would bring. Human colonists were being abducted by the Reaper's minions, and no one but Cerberus was doing anything about it. Shepard was doing good work with them, but the Commander knew they couldn't stay with the pro-human group forever, and so did their allies. When confronted by the Vermeer survivor on Horizon, their choice to side with Cerberus is heavily criticized.
You've turned your back on everything we stood for. You've changed, but I still know where my loyalties lie.
I could use someone like you in my crew, Caden. It'll be just like old times.
No, it won't. I'll never work for Cerberus. Goodbye, Shepard. And be careful.
Did something in Shepard change when they were resurrected? Were the Commander's loyalties different from before they were killed? No, Shepard knew that working with Cerberus was a double-edged sword. So even though the Illusive Man had brought Shepard back from the dead, it didn't buy him the Commander's undying loyalty. Instead, their loyalty was to their friends and allies fighting to save the human colonists. Shepard's strength came from them, not from Cerberus. And after one of Shepard's most grueling missions and the defeat of another Reaper, Shepard proved to the Illusive Man what they really stood for.
Shepard, you've done the impossible.
I was part of a team. Some of them gave their lives for this mission.
You did what you had to do. And you acquired the Collector base. This is our chance, Shepard. They were building a Reaper. That knowledge, that framework could save us.
They liquefied people. Turn them into something horrible. We have to destroy the base.
Don't be short-sighted. Our best chance against the Reapers is to turn their own resources against them. My goal is to save humanity from the Reapers, at any cost.
No matter what kind of technology we might find, it's not worth it. We'll fight and win without it. I won't let fear compromise who I am.
Shepard's decision to destroy the base, at least in this story, proved that they weren't the Illusive Man's lapdog. The Commander wasn't driven by fear, but by their allies' loyalty and by saving humanity the right way, which is something the Illusive Man refused to understand.
The technology from that base could have secured human dominance in the galaxy against the Reapers and beyond.
Human dominance? Or just Cerberus?
Strength for Cerberus is strength for every human. Cerberus is humanity.
Humanity needs a leader who's looking out for them. From now on, I'm doing things my way.
The soldier that the Illusive Man spent precious resources on was betraying him. Why couldn't Shepard see that technology was the only way to face the trial ahead? He wanted Shepard, but he didn't need them. He had other plans, other pawns that he could use. The Illusive Man was humanity's leader. He was beyond the Archimonolith now. He was enhanced with technology, and so too would his soldiers. He alone could cheat death and make humanity the greatest race in the galaxy. And when the Reapers finally attacked, he'd show Shepard just how wrong their ideals were. Earth was dying. The Reapers had finally begun their assault on the Milky Way, and humanity was one of its first targets. Anderson was relying on Shepard to save their home by rallying the galaxy and returning with a strength that no number of Reapers could match. It should have been a given that no other human would stand in Shepard's way. Yet on Mars, Cerberus was doing just that. And they were also doing the unthinkable. The Illusive Man had begun using Reaper technology on his own soldiers, making them faster and stronger. It was wrong on every level. And to make matters worse, Shepard's old boss was interfering with their plans, all because of his desire for power.
The data in these artifacts holds the key to solving the Reaper threat.
I've seen your solution. Your people are turned into monsters.
Hardly. They're being improved.
That's what separates us, Shepard. Where you see a means to destroy, I see a way to control, to dominate and harness the Reaper's power. Imagine how strong humanity would be if we controlled them.
The Illusive Man had officially lost it. Shepard didn't have time to squabble over how to defeat the Reapers. The commander needed to dig in, get the Crucible plans, and save Earth. Racing after the Illusive Man's lackey, the commander realized just how far the Cerberus leader would go with their technological obsession. Dr. Eva Corey wasn't human. It was a machine, obeying the Illusive Man's every word, and had to be taken out just like the Reapers. As Eva went down under Shepard's rain of bullets, the commander knew this war was going to be bigger than just the Reapers. It would be a fight for everything humanity stood for. And total human dominance wasn't what Shepard saw as humanity's strength. But the Illusive Man saw things differently. Despite losing Eva again, he wasn't beaten just yet. This chaotic war was an opportunity. It was the perfect time to secure humanity's place in the stars by removing those in his way. Shepard was running out of time. At the height of the Reaper War, instead of gaining more allies, they were forced to save the Council, all because of Cerberus' greed for power, which led to Shepard's confrontation with their old ally.
Shepard, what's going on?
We don't have time to negotiate. You've been fooled, all of you. There are Cerberus soldiers in the elevator shaft behind us. If you open that door, they'll kill you all.
I better not regret this.
You won't.
Udina, step away from the console.
He's got a gun!
The human counselor had betrayed humanity by siding with Cerberus, leaving Shepard's ally with no choice but to shoot him. Cerberus was forcing humans to kill other humans during a war against machines. But afterward, the main thing on the fellow Spectre's mind wasn't that. It was on how the situation had played out.
If I hadn't backed down first, I feel like you would have taken me out.
I trusted you, and I knew you'd come around. That's all that matters.
Yeah, but sometimes the way a thing goes down does matter, Shepard. Later when you have to live with yourself. Knowing that you acted with integrity, and it matters.
The way a thing goes down does matter. The other human Spectre knew that humanity's actions in this senseless war was the true battle. Not just beating the Reapers, but if they could live with themselves on the other side. As Shepard took this in, they knew that time was the enemy now. Shepard couldn't waste any more of it getting distracted by Cerberus's petty grabs for power. The pro-human group needed to be taken out once and for all. It was time for Shepard to face off against their old boss. After rounding up all the willing races in the galaxy, Shepard battled their way to the headquarters of Cerberus. All the grief Cerberus had caused the commander would finally end today, except the Illusive Man was nowhere to be found. He had already left, discovering what the catalyst was and where it would be before Shepard. For him, there was only one thing left to do. The Arkham Monolith had granted him power before, but now he was beyond that. He was going to exceed the Monolith's powers and the Reapers themselves. He was going to be better than his enemies, Shepard included. The Illusive Man was humanity's ideal leader. No one was going to stop him. He would control them all. Shepard had made it. Finally, after a long grueling battle on Earth, the commander had reached the Citadel, which was the catalyst they had been looking for all this time. Once the Citadel arms were open, the Crucible would activate and defeat the Reapers once and for all. The mission Anderson had given Shepard was almost complete, but nothing in this war was ever easy. The Illusive Man had done the unthinkable. He had integrated himself with Reaper technology. Power was everything, and technology was power. And with the Reaper's power, he had gained the ability to control other humans. Controlling the Reapers themselves seemed inevitable, except to Shepard.
You're playing with things you don't understand. With power you shouldn't be able to use.
No. This is the way humanity must evolve. I've dedicated my life to understanding the Reapers, and I know with certainty the Crucible will allow me to control them.
Are you willing to bet humanity's existence on it?
I know it will work.
You can't, can you? They won't let you do it.
No! I'm in control! No one is telling me what to do! The two of you so self-righteous. Do you think power like this comes easy? There are sacrifices.
You sacrifice too much.
From the moment the Illusive Man learned of the Reapers, he devoted all his time to save humanity from their inevitable harvest. He built an entire organization from scratch, proved to himself that even death can be cheated with enough power, and thought he was the one destined to protect Earth. But he was wrong. The Illusive Man wasn't humanity's true leader, but luckily, he had them by his side. Commander Shepard, who was raised from the dead by him, fought under him, and betrayed him, made one final appeal to the Illusive Man's humanity.
You've done exactly what the Reapers wanted. You're still doing it because they control you.
They're too strong.
You're stronger. Don't let them win. Break their hold. Don't let them control you.
Why was he fighting? Was it to protect humanity? No, it was to control. Control was the answer. But was it always? When did he change? When did absolute power become everything he desired? No, he didn't always want power. He began losing himself after he'd had his first taste of it. Before then, he just wanted to save his friends. He wasn't able to. But at least he tried. In his final moments, the Illusive Man shed the mask he'd worn for so long and became Jack Harper one last time. And he needed humanity's hero to know one final thing.
I tried, Shepard.
Jack Harper had tried. He thought he was the hero. He thought loyalty could be bought. And above all, he thought that absolute power could prevent anyone from hurting him or humanity again. But the way the Illusive Man wanted to do things did matter. He tried to be humanity's leader, but in the process lost sight of what humanity truly needed to succeed. Not technology, but the magic of friendship. The Illusive Man is the antithesis to everything Shepard is, which makes him Shepard's perfect final boss, the man who lost his humanity to the illusion of power. The Illusive Man's plan to save humanity was messed up, but he might have come up with a second plan to avoid the Reapers altogether that was never explained in the trilogy. Watch this theory next on the secret Cerberus mission that's tied to who the mysterious benefactor really is. See you there!